So this here is an LB7 Duramax engine. These engines originally come in the 01 to 04 Chevy or GMC 2500, 3500 HD trucks. Now, if you don't know, these are notorious for injector issues along with hit or miss head gasket issues. But we have to swap this in a 2002 Chevy Silverado 2500 HD, which has LB7 originally in it. Now, it is a little bit of a piece, but we're gonna clean her up, get it right, put it back together. Her interior's gone. It freaking had different mismatched seats in it. The dash was already busted up and stuff like that. And from most of you probably think, why am I rebuilding this truck or even putting an engine in it? Not to mention body damage over here. The bed's got some damage. The cab down there's got some damage. This door didn't want to seal up here. The damage on the cab down there. The fender. Different color hood. And not to mention, it was already somewhat taken apart when I got it. Looked like somebody had a lot of the AC stuff and all that unbolted. We took off the turbo inlet to see how the turbo looked, but all in all, like, you got this wiring right here. It looks a little rough, but it's supposed to be like a fuel issue, as well. I was assuming from the way I heard it explained to me, and I was hoping for that. But when I got it, you can definitely tell it was like out of time or something like that. So I'm thinking a cam pinch here or something along that nature, maybe something to do with the crank. I'm not entirely too sure, but we will be tearing down this engine to figure out exactly what went wrong, and to kind of let y'all know maybe some things to look out for. But we don't even really know the history on this thing. The guy I got it from had it secondhand with original issues how it is now, and pretty much gave it to me that way, same way, which he knew very little about the truck as well, which I knew it, of course, too. So it's nothing on him, obviously. You can see all the wiring and stuff under there. Dude, this thing's, it's a piece, and I'm hoping it's not gonna be a handful trying to get this thing back on the road, running and driving. But we're gonna get it right. We're gonna put it back together, get it all fixed up. Need me another diesel work truck, and this is perfect. So I've seen the interior and the thing's trashed. So where the engine came from, my buddy had a parts LB7 he bought to fix some parts on his truck, and he wound up letting me get the whole interior from this truck, pretty much, and the engine for a decent price. I feel like as long as we can get everything back together and going, it'd be worth it. This interior is kind of fire though, because it's got the heated seats with the little wood grain, but unfortunately it's missing the wood grain bezel and this wood grain piece, which I'll probably try to collect some of those back. But it's got the newer HD mirrors, and it's also got cab lights. Let me know if we should swap these onto that cab. All in all, it's pretty clean inside. Obviously it's dirty, but it's clean. Headliner is in good shape. Pretty much just swapping everything from in here to that truck here soon to make that one more loaded. This one ain't got the cab lights, unfortunately, but it was definitely my stupidity for buying it. I bought the truck before even checking it out. Pulled up over there, kind of looked around it, didn't realize how bad the body was, and I loaded up on a trailer, got to a buddy's house, and we started tinkering with it a little bit. And well, yeah, I mean, that's when we determined that the engine's pretty much toast. I could have tore out that engine and probably fixed whatever's wrong with it, but we made a package deal with the rest of that interior, the other engine, and for everything pretty much for this truck. So I was like, why not? You know, he has the engine, it'd make him a sale, and I get to have that interior too for this truck, because obviously the truck needed interior bad. So that's what we did. We made the agreement, component agreement. So now we're gonna put head studs in the engine and then throw it in here, see how she runs. Hopefully everything runs and drives like it should. Hopefully transmission's good, and then after that we will be focused on the interior. We might swap the interior first, I'm not too sure, but I'll definitely make a video on that so y'all can see the process, and so you can kind of see what to look for if you want to swap your base model interior to something with heated seats like that one. I could have gotten a gas, but I like my diesel, and especially when you have them pretty much bulletproof, you know, minimal issues. They last forever. It seems like you could do anything to them, you go anywhere in the world. But really the only factors with not owning the diesel that people don't like is the cost of work on them and parts pricing, which for the LB7 parts are not that bad. but it's just harder to work on. You got to have like a diesel knowledge to work on them. And honestly, they're not that hard to work on. They're not too far from working on a gas engine. There's just a lot more stuff to a diesel, like you see all the wiring, everything. It looks very intimidating, but no worries. We're gonna tear this engine down right here for y'all so you can see everything that goes into doing head gaskets on a Duramax. And this applies for many Duramaxes, but there's going to be a lot of different things on the top end that's going to be different from this, the LY and the LBZ. I also will be doing head gaskets on my LBZ here soon, so stay tuned for that video if you want to see how to do head gaskets on the LBZ. Also, we'll be swapping this into the truck and pulling the old one out, so I'll also be videoing that so y'all can see firsthand on how to pull the LB7 and put in an LB7 engine as well. So to start, we're going to remove all your basic stuff like your intake tube right here, probably your modules, and get some of this wiring down so it'd be out the way. And first thing after we do that, we'll remove the wiring as well. This little clamp right here, it's either 8mm 5/16 or a flathead screwdriver to get this little intake boot off. Paint cap that fits good over that to block that off, if y'all was wondering. Get this computer out the way, off to the side. All the ground and stuff are still connected as well. We're gonna get this ficum out the way real quick, which is a 13mm. I'm gonna hook probably the fuel line on this end off the filter head, and then there's another one right here. And then unclip it right here and pull it off. And remove this, you gotta pull this tab upward, like so. And it's gonna slide out while you pull upward. Maybe push pressure like this and pull up. Should come right off. Move these wires if you can, and try to get to this clamp in here. Alright. Finally. Alright, we're going to start by getting some of this wiring off with these grounds. It's probably a 15, this is a 13, 15, 13. We're going to take this one off, just as a bracket. We're going to put the ground bolt back, or the bracket bolt. Crank sensor right here. A little pieces on the back side. Looks like somebody's been there because it's kind of electric greased. We can get a 10 to take this bracket off. And 15 for this ground bracket. Could be two 10mm right here for this whole little bracket. Which just pulls off. There's a couple things down here like grounds and plugs. So this is the plug. There's another harness up there still. But to get this harness finished with, we got to undo this one 15mm ground right behind the oil pressure sensor, which is this guy. And we're gonna take apart this oil level plug, it looks like. All it is a little push clip, push down and pulls out, and it's attached to one more ground that looks like to be a 15 as well. It looks like we cracked the oil pan somehow, but we might be able to weld it. I guess we have to pull the oil pan off and see how it looks and reseal all this anyway. Alright, so we got the big harness and computers out the way. And we'll probably go through that, re-clean it and loom it too. But now we're going to get all the big stuff. Because in order to get the small harness comfortably out the way, we have to pull a lot of this big stuff off. When I say big stuff, I'm saying like we get the chain out the way, get this coolant pipe out the way, get this turbo boot out the way, try to get this inlet, turbo inlet pipe out the way, maybe even AC and stuff like that, get it pulled off and out the way. The 15mm going through the alternator bracket, that's a little longer, so it'll grab. This is the original bolt right here in the front. This is a bolt from like a alternator bracket from LS. And then we have the other bolt on the flywheel. back there, which can stay for now. 1/2-inch drive on here. Wrong way. Nope, wrong way again. Probably down. Slip it off and let it come back up. Get this coolant pipe out the way. Underneath there and kind of like work it around. I'm gonna hope and assume that this thing has already had injectors done, because it looked like they have some silicone stuff there from that, so I'm hoping that's the case. Unplug this, which I'm not too sure what that is. Got to figure it out because your map sensor is right here. We're gonna get this AC bracket out the way, so it's 15mm on top. Pull it off together, set aside. We're gonna get this whole assembly right here out the way. Also, a couple bolts down here. It looks to be like a 12 from this tube. Now, oh, there we are. So I went ahead and removed that fuel line that was right here that was keeping us from getting alternator bracket off. Now we're going to remove this broken fuel filter housing bracket. Should be a 12. 3 of them boys. Move to get this fuel line bracket out the way. Those bolts back also. Bend this out the way. Bracket removed, which is 12. Now you can kind of see your injectors that go into your valve covers, which is one of the reasons why many people hate the LB7. Because they're harder to change injectors and they're one of the most common with injector problems. That's okay. We're going to let those rock because we're banking on them being changed. This is not something we're looking to spend injector money on unless there's a company out there that wants to sponsor us with some injectors. That'd be great. Another crank sensor, or this is actually your cam sensor, not your crank sensor. Temper sensor right here. Go ahead and remove this boot right here. It's an 11mm or a 7/16, like most clamps are. There we go. Twist it. Bam. Guess we'll remove this. Get this out the way. 12mm and an extension. Bracket out the way. 12. Just out your wrench to the bracket. Slide it off. Bust this loose. Stoops. It's got another bolt in there. Stupid me. We're gonna go ahead and snatch these other bolts out of here too for this harness bracket. They're all about the same size, so mix them up as you please. We got some corrosion on it, man. Unplug the injector harness right here. Just a little locking clip and plug. You got your fuel rail pressure sensor. Unplug that. We're gonna go ahead and finish doing all of that and getting it out the way, whatever all of that is. Try to leave as much together as possible so kind of know where it goes back. Take off this PCV tube right here. Get it out of the way. Pretty stiff line to tell you. Now what's left? Get this harness. Another looks like fuel rail pressure sensor. Got your wire going to your glow plugs. And another one going to your pressure regulator. Take our 8mm. Take off all those wires, which is your intake heater, and then your glow plug. Which is a little rusty. Glow plug on this side. Like that, we got this other engine harness. It's starting to look a little bit naked. Alright, next we're going to take off your power steering pump bracket right here. A couple of those 14 mils. I'm going to go ahead and take your idler off now, which is this thing right here. Get it out the way. Three bolts and two nuts, it looks like. Yeah. This thing comes off like that. Turbo mount pieces, three 10mm bolts. Start zipping this puppy off, see what the turbo looks like. Ooh, I don't know if we're gonna be able to get that. Alright, it looks like we gotta bust out the wrench. It's not sealed good. You can see right there. Got some corrosion, but man, this thing's like tight. Barely any up and down. There's no in and out, and it spins really well. In case anyone was wondering the size of this turbo, it looks to be 61.27 roughly. So now we're going to remove the downpipe, and this is the sketchy part because all these bolts along the manifold and the downpipe and uppipes are all like really badly rusted. So I'm hoping we have a good success with removing all the bolts. Now I did spray them down the other day and let them sit, but now I must spray them down right before we start busting them loose and let them sit again so they're like a fresh wet, and hope that everything comes off without breaking any bolts, because we really don't feel like doing all that. I think it's a 12.12mm, which it is. Let me get this heat shield off first. 15 or 14 mils. I'm gonna have to get those with a wrench. It's definitely a 14. Wasn't so bad. Now, since these bolts are kind of notorious for breaking, we're going to put some heat to those, but first we're going to get this heat shield off. Almost out of heat. Probably won't need much since the other bolts came off pretty easily. Man, folds. Point out, we're gonna try to leave the manifolds on because these bolts are pretty bad off, but try to leave these on if we can. Leave them on the head, pull them off. We can get to the head bolts pretty good, so shouldn't have a problem putting the studs and stuff in like that. But we're gonna zip these off, get those out the way, then we'll pull the turbo off. Yeah, I'm not too sure what's going on with this cylinder, but you can see in there, and it is like soaking wet all in there. You come to this side, just kind of like the normal rustic dryness. So I guess when we pull the head off, we'll determine what's going on. All right, so we're going to be removing probably most of this fuel lines, and then try to get turbo, Y bridge, and all that good stuff off the top end. Take off the water pump stuff first. Okay. Let's get these fuel lines off. A couple 12s. Guess we'll take apart at the lines right there. I think they're 3/4. Take it off at this line. I think it's the only downfall with this engine is I feel like a lot of the lines are in the way, because like on the LBZ you can definitely get to the Y bridge without taking the fuel system apart. It's the unfortunate thing about this one, I guess you can't. This is insane. Now all we need to get the socket on. This whole time, right there in front of my face. I'm glad I'm doing this like this instead of in the truck. One more line. Trying to lose any of this stuff. All your banjo bolts and stuff. We actually put this back on the head. So bolt. Bolt. Yeah, it looks like they're half and half. 4 bolts, 4 nuts. Nut. And nut. 2 bolts at the top, 2 nuts at the bottom. Same on the other side. Figure that'd be a airflow equivalence problem. You think it probably goes to the left side of the engine more than the right. I'm sure it probably does, which kind of is why they have more fluid on this side. It could have been from, my buddy said he tried starting it, because we don't know if this thing actually ran or not, so it is still a mystery. But he did try starting it, and whatever he sprayed in it, which smells weird, could have all leaked into there instead of combusting it. It is all sandy. Alright, now time to get the turbo. Looks like they might have had bird nest. Well, I think that's like 3/4 or something, maybe 18 millimeters in the valley. I don't remember exactly how to get those easily, because it doesn't look easy. In fact, not an 18. Let's go to a 17. In fact, a 17. Turbo, in fact, the worst part. You can't forget this oil drain. There's only 3 main bolts for the turbo. I'll tell you now, release this gasket always, because it is not easy to do and it will make a mess. Did that already. Changed the turbo on an LML and didn't replace that gasket. Stupid me. Being cheap, and yeah, worst thing. Alright, we're gonna set this guy to the side. Watch your feed. Cool thing about the LB7s, they're not VGT. Gosh dang it, almost dirt. Pull off these lawns. Looks like an 8. We'll pull off these lawns right here. Yeah. Bust these injector lines loose. Ugh. And we're gonna leave the injector line in the place on the common rail, so we know exactly where it goes back to. Didn't even realize Duramax videos, you know, were so important to people. Just kind of made that one, and he commented, and I appreciate it definitely. On the LML one I did. Just a swap, engine swap, and said that it was helpful. Wish I kind of did more in depth than I already did. I didn't really go deep like I'm doing on this one, because I was feeling it out, see how y'all liked it, and definitely helped motivate me to do this one. There's one. Common rail. Probably gonna order these seals, which probably do order a lot of seals, but probably gonna definitely do them because I don't want those leaking by no means. The lock tab's off. See this stuff. Alright, now we can zip off the valve covers. Yeah, it's a 5 mil. Now there's 2 parts to this valve cover. There's like a top layer right here that seals the injectors off and the lines off. There's a bottom part which covers like the rockers and stuff. Haha. Hey, looks really good. The rust from water. Oh my god, look at that one. The fuel system definitely had to have water in it. Now, I don't think we necessarily have to take the injectors out. I think we can get to what we're doing without doing that, but we do have to take the rockers off, unfortunately. So I guess we're gonna probably disassemble that. And it's going to be these 4 14s. So, but first, we got to take off these 10 mils, bracket out the way, like that. Let's get the big one out. Boy, like this. 4. Now these do matter on which direction between the left and right, so we're going to set it the way the engine is. Now we got to set the push rods, get a piece of cardboard and set the push rods in, draw on it like if it was the engine. Front passenger driver. Now what you do is just stick holes, line them up how they come out. So pretty much something like this. So they got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we're gonna punch 8 holes. 8 holes. Pull them out. Stick them through. Just like so. Some pretty beefy push rods, man. Now you can start pulling the head off, which would be these 6 bolts, 17. Alright, so we're going to be zipping these head bolts out to get these heads off. We do have to take off this other valve cover, unfortunately. The other head bolts are blocked in these corners. Alright. A little more access here. We're going to have to pull those injector lines. What I mean by injector lines, it's return lines. 12 mil up here in the corner. It's definitely not a number 6. Probably more common sense to have the number 5 that I was just using. Huh, exactly what it is. Now we can take all the head bolts out and get the heads off. Tell you one thing, Duramax head is not light. And this thing's got the exhaust manifold on it, and intake, and injectors. And I gotta fight it around this dipstick, because they just don't want to come out. I don't know what the hell that is. Whatever it is, it's stuck in the engine, and it was stuck in the head. I just dug out. So this one don't look as bad as the other side, but you can still see how an injector was spraying. Now, all this looks like corrosion, but I'm wondering if this is head gasket repair. Because, you know, I guess that's water, but I'm thinking that's head gasket repair because you can see, if you can see in there, I don't know if you can. Can you see in there? Barely, but there's green coolant in there. And the front of the block looks, well, the front of the heads look really clean. But there's a whole bunch of like corrosive stuff everywhere. And honestly, I don't know what the hell it is, but I'm kind of wondering if it's head gasket repair. See a lot of it right here. I tell you, if it had a hot tune, no head studs, original head gaskets, these suckers definitely got to be blown, which some spots you can see it's like built up, like right there. I'm not too sure. If you guys have a guess, leave a comment in the comment section below. That's gonna be a wrap for this video. Be sure to subscribe and check out the next video, which will be cleaning up all this, putting the head studs on, and then reassembling everything, and probably clean and paint some parts. So definitely don't miss out on part 2.